Hi.
Oh, hello. My name is Kevin, and today we're just talking about a simple and boring topic. Okay, so you guessed it, it's chemistry. And do you know why I just presented about chemistry? Because I love chemistry. And today, what's in mind? Well, we're talking about the scientific tools and equipment in a chemistry lab. First, I'll show you the introduction. Here's are the rules. First, use common sense. This could even save your life. Second, wear clothes properly. No jewelry or dangling clothes, loosened clothes actually, or sandals into the room. So you should also wear carefully. And always wear safety goggles, even when cleaning your lab. Okay, so let's step in first. Here, we're talking about the protective tools first. Okay, first is the safety shower. Okay, so in every lab has a shower. And do not tap the controller or you'll be washed. The safety shower is used only if a chemical is spilled onto your clothes or skin. Take out all of the contaminated clothes and then rinse yourself in the shower for at least 15 minutes. Next is the safety goggles. These are goggles that could help protect our eyes from the kind of like chemicals from spilling in. So if you accidentally don't wear goggles and you have a chemical spill in your eye, or if your goggle loosens, so you need to have an eye wash. There is a bottle of eye wash and rinse your eyes in at least 15 minutes. Next is something you all know in everywhere, which is the fire extinguisher. It is used for specific kind of like fires that happen, kind of like you have a chemical and it spills out and causes a fire, or if an electrical cord gets leaked by water or it is broken. So there is another thing that you can use except the fire extinguisher, and you can use it to smother fire from small surfaces or person. So that's the fire blanket. First, you need to smother it on the fire of the person. You wrap it around the person being kind of like fired, and then you will tell that person to stop, drop, and roll, just like the SDR. And next, we are talking about the measuring equipment. So first is the electronic balance. So as the name suggests, the electronic balance is used to weigh things, just like a balance would do. Well, it's only that it's electronic, which also means that on kind of like the screen, it will show the weight of the substance. Before doing this, then you need to put the substance in a weighing boat or weighing paper before weighing it. The next one is the double pan balance. It is used to compare the mass of two objects. So first you need to know the mass of one object. And now, if the pans are level, that also means that these two objects have the same mass. The next one is a weighing boat or weighing paper. Well, just as I said before, it is used to hold the substances to weigh their mass in an electronic balance. Before weighing it in the balance, you need to weigh the weight of the boat or paper first. After that, you put the chemical or substance in, and then you weigh it. And then, finally, you subtract the overall mass with the weight of the weighing boat or weighing paper. And this is also a very common tool. It's a thermometer. Well, you all know in grade 1 that thermometers are used to measure temperature. Well, mostly Celsius, or sometimes Fahrenheit or Kelvin. Next, we're talking about a pipette, which is now helping equipment. A pipette is kind of like a long, thin tube with a suction on the back. This is also used to take chemicals from one flask and experiment it in another flask in the solution experiment. So next are test tubes. Okay, so you know about test tubes. Those are the common things that they spill on and out, and they also use it to burn under a fire so they could conclude the conclusion of the experiment. You all know about this. And its volume is just precise, so it's just used for testing. And there is also a thing called a stopper. A stopper is something kind of like a rubber thingy, like a blue tack, but it's much more bigger, and it's like the lid of kind of like old kind of like wine bottle, and you got the thing up there. It's just like that. It's only that it fits into test tubes or flasks, so you could keep the contents for later. A burette and stand is actually a ring stand, but with a burette, which is also kind of like a test tube, but kind of like with a pipe that leads the liquid down, and a kind of like, so it kind of like has a lock in that tube, so you could deliver the right amount of liquid into each flask. A funnel is used to help move liquids into others. So, like funnels, do you know about them? It's a very, very common scientific lab kind of like tool. So, first, it has a kind of like a big lid, and then you pour it inside, and then it goes down into a small tube, and finally goes into the container. Next is a Bunsen burner. Do you know a Bunsen burner? It looks like a candle, but it is not used from beeswax. No, not from beeswax. It is made from other types of wax, or sometimes metal. So to turn it on, just have to flick. You'll just have to flick the kind of like the valve to turn it up and down. To turn the fire. It is fed by a gas line inside the kind of like metal candle. And be sure, don't flick it up too high, okay? Or it'll burn the whole laboratory. The next one are filter paper. Well, it is also used in filterization, which you can filter a solid from a liquid. So to do this, you need to fold the paper in half and in half again. And finally, open a layer so that it looks like a cone. And then put it in the funnel and you just finish your filtration cone. The next one we're talking about are scupulas and spatulas. Well, that is a horrible name. I don't know why they're called like that. Well, it's just simple. Like the first one, the scupulas are actually a spoon with kind of like something at the end of to dig. It's kind of like to dig. I don't know how to explain it. It looks so weird. The next one is the dinghy thingy. And finally, we're talking about is the holding equipment. And now we're talking about Erlenmeyer flasks. Okay, so what's an Erlenmeyer flask? It's a flask that looks like kind of like a beaker, but it's narrower at the top, so it's easier to put a stopper in it. An Erlenmeyer flask can be used to measure the volume or mass of a liquid, or you could use the stopper to save the contents for later. How about the volumetric flask? Well, volumetric flasks are flasks that looks like a very, very long test tube, but it's kind of like round at the bottom, like this, like an orange, for example. And it is used to measure volume, which is more precise than the Erlenmeyer flask. And it only has one specific mark for a specific measure. A beaker is kind of like a container that has a spout at the top. This is actually not accurate. Its measures are not accurate. So it shall only be measured when approximate amounts are needed or when they're measuring volume. The next one we're talking about is a mortar and pestle. Well, what's that? A mortar and pestle? Well, a mortar and pestle is kind of like a bowl and grinder. So it is actually used for grinding solids into kind of like into powder. So they chip, 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 just like that. And we could also use a hot plate. A hot plate is something like kind of like a pot, but actually it's more like a pan. And a hot plate is used to heat things up like a Bunsen burner. But it doesn't give out actual flames. It is an electronic device. And so we'll talk again about the things that we could put things in it. So we also have a cleaning thing. Yeah, just like a test tube brush. Well, a test tube brush is used to clean the inside out of test tubes. Well, think it like veins inside a finger. A graduated cylinder is used to measure the amount of liquid or solution. It does look like a cylinder, but actually it has a stand at the bottom. So that's all of our things in my presentation today. What equipment do you like best? What tools do you think are interesting? Watch more and subscribe Soul to Grow. Please like this video if you like it. And that's all for today. Goodbye.